I'm gonna speak on some things, not my proudest moment. Hello my friends, this video is overdue. I am going to be recapping what I read over the holidays. If you've watched my fall TBR and my Christmas TBR videos, you know that I was a little bit ambitious with my TBRs. I've since learned that I am a bit of a mood reader. And once I've had my fill of something, I will be moving on to the next thing. So there are some books that I didn't get to. Let's talk about it. I think I had 9 or 10 books. Over time, I got through 5 of those. So not bad, but there were quite a few that I didn't get to. The 2 physical books that I didn't get to for my fall TBR are Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman and Dragonfall by R.L. Lamb. I have started both of these books. This one's really good. It's just the book itself is small, and that makes it a little bit difficult for me to read because I like having a bigger book, but I have enjoyed what I've read so far. I just didn't get to it when I thought I was going to. Dragonfall is still hard for me to get into. I have not moved in this book for quite some time, but I will be reading it this year. More on that later. The other books that I haven't read are The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I didn't get to that one. And The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I actually did get about halfway through that book, but I was listening to it on audiobook and it returned to my library before I got the opportunity to finish it, but it was good. I enjoyed what I read of it. As for my Christmas books that I didn't get to, I read 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5, or 6. I'm not actually sure. I didn't get to Love Under Contract and A Merry Little Meet Cute. I got partway through 7 Days of Us, but it did not take long to figure out that that was not a rom-com. That was more like family drama kind of vibes, and that was super not what I was going for at the time. So I got like a third of the way through it, and I decided that I would not be reading it, and it returned to my library. So it was fine with me, really. Now let's get on to the books that I did read over all of the holidays, Halloween through New Year. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books that I did read from these lists. One that's not here physically is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Far less than I anticipated I would read, but it's still books nonetheless. So let's talk about it. The first book that I read, The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, and oh my goodness gracious, was it so good. This was the first thriller I'd ever picked up. I learned also that it was the most intricate plot that Lucy Foley had ever tried, and oh my goodness, did it play out so well. I never really jumped into the thriller side of things because I was super scared that it would branch into horror. Earlier last year, I read a book that I didn't know was horror. I would listen to some of the scenes and then feel like physically sick. So I was really worried about walking into any form of thriller, but this one was really good. It's definitely a mystery whodunit, but it's definitely got you on your toes. I couldn't put it down. I was listening to it at literally every opportune moment. I took a road trip at the time I was reading this, and I read it the whole way down and the whole way home, which is 6 hours each. It was just so good. I rated this book at 5 stars, and that feels incredible to say, having chosen a new genre to walk into. In The Paris Apartment, you follow Jess, and she's figuring out why her brother has gone missing from his apartment in Paris. You learn about the neighbors in the apartment building, how they're all involved with each other, how Ben was involved with them, what everybody's little dirty secrets are. There's some crazy twists and turns at the end of the book. I was slack-jawed shocked at some of the twists in this book. I have people in my life that will tell me that they start to like anticipate what thrillers do over time. Could never be me. I was so shocked the whole time, and I felt like I loved this book, and I would highly recommend, not just for anybody in like a fall kind of mood, but like if you want something that like you just can't put down and you have to know what happens and you want, like, you are invested in these characters, The Paris Apartment is the book for you. It was just so good. 5 stars. Next question. Next book. Significant shift in energy. Next book that I read was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I rated this book at 3 stars. I picked it up because I was looking for something cozy, gentle, sweet, and it definitely delivered that. You're following Keela as a former librarian of this magic library. She's forced to flee the library because it catches fire. She goes to her original home island. You're following her saving as many books as she can, finding a place to settle, and kind of finding her place in the world as well. Very big emphasis on found family in this book and reconnecting with your younger self, which I really admired. There are some mentions of domestic abuse in this book, so trigger warning, but it was really sweet. It was definitely, this would be a comfort read. I could see myself reading this again if I need something that still had enough action to keep me intrigued, but it wasn't my super favorite, but I think that's just because cozy fantasy might not be for me. Like, I need some higher stakes. I need somebody to be like maybe about to die. You know, there were a couple of things like that in here. There's some political intrigue, there's a chance of incarceration, there's forbidden magic. It's definitely still good. It just didn't have the pacing I was looking for, especially after the Paris apartment. 3 stars. Maybe 3.5. It was sweet. I liked it. 3.5. Next book, I returned to the thrillers because I was still on this high from the Paris apartment and I needed something else. So I picked up The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Oh my gosh. This book is the reason I got on TikTok. I read this book in 2 days and I needed to tell somebody about it. Somebody please talk to me about this book. This was insane. The Paris apartment was like top tier 5 stars. This is also equally as 5 stars. You're following Kit McDear as she goes to take care of Lenora Hope, who is rumored to have murdered her family as a teenager in the 80s? No, in the 30s, in 1930. This book takes place in 1983, so there's not a lot of modern technology, and Lenora has been rendered mute and basically immobile by a series of strokes. She can only move one of her hands, so she communicates with Kit via typewriter. And one day, Kit is taking care of Lenora, and Lenora starts typing out on the typewriter with her one hand, which takes some time. Imagine that, like click, clack, click, clack. Ominous. The mood setting in this book was unreal. But she types it out. She goes, "I trust you. I want to tell you everything." The more she learns... Thank you. The more she learns, the more she starts to doubt her safety. She doubts her involvement in the crime. You never know which way to look. I literally read it in 2 days and I will be rereading it this year. It was so good. This was an immediate 5 stars for me. My jaw was on the floor. There were so many involvements that I could not even have seen coming if I was a regular reader of thrillers. Oh, you learn about these characters and they seem far away, but then they're actually this person. And like, everything was tied into everything. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. Riley Sager, you did a number with this one, and I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. This was an exceptional second step into the thriller genre, and I loved every second of it. 5 stars. After The Only One Left, it was a dark book. Thematically, it was kind of gothic, so I wanted something more lighthearted, so I reached for a rom-com, and I picked up The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This is my first Christina Lauren. It wasn't my super favorite, but I think that was because I was looking for like an escapism romance, and this didn't give me that. It wasn't bad. The characters are relatable. It just didn't resonate with me. Following Olive, who is a bit jaded, doesn't really believe in love. She kind of lives in the shadow of her sister, who's always winning, always doing something, loves her giveaways. Like, she's a sweepstakes queen. She's always winning. She's getting married. She's won this huge honeymoon trip. However, there's this food poisoning outbreak at her wedding. The only people that aren't affected are Olive and her like mortal enemy, Ethan, who is her in-law's brother. Right? Olive and Ethan are sent away on this like magic honeymoon as they're like mortal enemies and kind of hate each other. And I thought I was really gonna love it because like, oh, little enemies to lovers action, but like in a funny rom-com kind of way. And it was okay. I rated this at a 2.75 just because it wasn't my super favorite. I feel like it's very realistic. It will be really relatable for some people. It just didn't resonate with me. There are some really good honest moments between two people. I loved the honesty between them. There was also some honest miscommunication. Like, this truly would happen. So it didn't feel like, oh, I'm just not talking to you and you're not talking to me because we're mad at each other. Like, no, this was like genuine, like this would happen. If you're looking for like a pull at your heartstrings kind of romance, I think this would absolutely do it for you. The ending was kind of icky to me. I will say that. Somebody's gonna love it, but it was very much like kind of cringy to me. It felt like they were trying to like wrap it up with a little bow. I think part of it is just that some of the characters are a little bit cringy to me, so they were acting in their element and I just didn't like it. It was still cute, just not really for me. 2 3/4 stars. After reading The Unhoneymooners, I was definitely ready for something a little more fast-paced. So I picked up The Frugal Wizard's Handbook. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first Sanderson novel that I've ever completed, and it is so fun. This contains a white room trope. You're following your main character. You don't know his name until like 90 pages in, maybe 50 pages in. He wakes up in this field with scorch marks and burnt pages all around him, has no idea what's going on, except he has this vague sense that he needs to like get out of here before whoever's chasing him shows up, which is interesting because he's not sure why he's being chased or what's happening. And as he gathers more information, he picks up these pages. He has this copy of his Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, but it halfway blew up on his way in to medieval England. And so you're learning with him why he's here, how he got here, and what the intention was for being here. You run into a little bit of magic, a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of adventure. I feel what this book really centers around is this character finding who they are versus who they want to be. And because they had to piece together the memories of who they were, they're able to really transform into the person that they want to become. And I really enjoyed following along with our main character. Definitely would read this again. I feel like this is a fantastic fall read, which I love that I chose it for that. I just got to it more in the winter end of things, but it was so lovely, so enjoyable. There are super cute illustrations throughout the whole book. This book is not in Sanderson's Cosmere, which made it way less intimidating for me. I didn't know that until the end when I was reading the afterword. Just so enjoyable, very lighthearted, but you still care about what's going on. And it's fun to learn with the main character about who he is and what's going on. I gave this book 4 stars. I want to say it would be 5, but it just didn't have the like intense involvement that I would want from a 5-star read, but definite 4, close to my heart, will be reading again. After the high of the Frugal Wizard's Handbook, I was ready for a challenge, and so I barreled into The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I finally finished it. I wanted to like this book so bad because I know so many people love it. I have this beautiful red edition. The cover is cloth bound, like it's really beautiful, and it says I remember you on the back. It doesn't have the stars. The stars are on the raven. It's this beautiful copy of this book. I've been told it's such a beautiful story, and I really wanted to enjoy it, but it just didn't pull at me. I fought through this book. In this book, you're following Addie LaRue, who is cursed to be forgotten in exchange for escaping her marriage and the life that she has. She is also now immortal. So you follow her through the centuries of being forgotten, but also being loosely remembered. People just don't remember who she fully is, but they know there was this girl at one time, you know, this mystery woman, this muse. You're moving through the book, you're really getting used to Addie just being forgotten, and then one day this boy remembers her name. At that point, you kind of lean into this boy's story, less so into Addie's, and that is what got me. I couldn't do it. I'm gonna speak on something. I need to speak on it, girl. I can't stand Henry. I literally cannot. I mean, I understand that he's like so sad. I understand that. I really do. But like, it's like in an angsty Tumblr 2014 kind of way, in like a I listened in the 1975 and nothing else kind of way, and I can't do it. I mean, like, listening to Addie's story was fine for me, but Henry was just too much. And towards the end of the book, I was only looking forward to the chapters that had Luke in them. And I didn't care enough about Henry or Addie to be like invested in the story, and I saw what was gonna happen from a freaking mile away. It was so not worth the 500 or 600 pages to me. I rated this at a 1 star. It's not for me, and that means it's for somebody else to love, so it's okay. But I really just... One of the other things that really got me, we're following this woman over hundreds of years, and every time there's this line that's like, Addie would learn this about her curse, but for now. Like, okay, but we see her modern day having learned those things, so I don't want to hear the for now. You do get multiple perspectives, you do get alternating timelines. I just did not relate to the characters or care about them really at all. 1 star for Miss Addie LaRue, but I did get through it. After Addie LaRue, we were inching into the Christmas season, and this is when I made my Christmas TBR. I really needed something to zhuzh me back up. I needed like a jump start, or I was gonna hit a reading slump hard and fast. So I hopped on the Christmas romance train and I picked up The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore, which was a perfect savior from my Addie LaRue near miss slump, okay? The Christmas Tree Farm follows Kira. She is a Christmas grump, doesn't really like Christmas, but she decides to buy this dilapidated tree farm in this small town called Dream Harbor, which is where all of these books take place. She realizes pretty quickly that she's in over her head, but she has a really hard time asking for help. Enter the town hottie who's only here for vacation, Bennett Ellis. Bennett has a fixer complex. The second he sees that Kira's tree farm is a little bit run down, he's like, oh, let me fix your radiator, let me fix your windows, how the hell are you living here? You know, like the whole bit. Then they fall slowly but steadily in love, try to deny it, the whole bit. I was looking for a Hallmark movie with a little bit of spice. She delivered. For anyone who ever wished Hallmark Christmas movies were steamier, this one might do the trick. It was cute, it was sweet, it was short and to the point, it gave me some Christmas spirit vibes, gingerbread and snow and like a winter fair, like a Christmas market kind of thing. And it was really sweet. Very much ushered in the cozy vibes for me. I just realized you can probably hear the train. Okay, I think we're good. Very Christmas cozy, Christmas spirit filled. Could feel the vibes immediately. I rated it a 3.5 stars because it's exactly what I was looking for. It's a sweet story. I really did care about the characters and learning about their backstories and how they came to be in Dream Harbor, and it made me want to read the other ones. 3.5 stars. After The Christmas Tree Farm, I read Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. It was my first venture into Tessa Bailey's books, and I would love to read more of her books that aren't Christmas themed because I feel like she has a lot of potential as a writer for me. I feel like she would probably write some romance that I would like. I don't know that I'd like everything that she does, but I did like Wreck the Halls. We follow these two children of former rock stars that are trying to reunite their mothers after a catastrophic fallout, and they're trying to do so on live TV. They're both offered $1 million to do it. You're watching them go throughout this live stream reunion that they're trying to pull off, and they're also falling in love at the same time, of course. It didn't feel very relatable and it didn't feel heavy on the Christmas vibes to me. It just felt like a Christmas in New York love story. I felt like Christmas was more involved just for like a timeline, just to give them a timeline rather than for the story, which was fine. I just didn't really like it. I think I would rate this at like a 2.5 stars. It's fine, but I probably wouldn't read it again. I would much rather read some of her other books. It turned out that 2 Christmas books was just enough for me, so after that I picked up something else, and the book that I chose was The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. This is a young adult fiction about a girl who was raised under a con woman and was raised to be part of her cons. We come to learn that she has since escaped said con woman and has not been living in that lifestyle. She's just been trying to be normal and settle down, and then one day she's taking in money for a fundraiser with her best friend who's her ex-boyfriend and her girlfriend, and then the bank starts to be robbed and they're held hostage and they have to find a way out of it. I was locked in. I have not been this locked into a YA novel since I was in middle school and attended a Scholastic book fair. I didn't know that this is a series, but I did enjoy this first book, so I might read the second book. It was really fast paced. You do get alternate timelines in here, so you're flashing from the present day as they're hostages in this bank to formerly when Nora was all of these other girls for these different cons under her mom's tutelage, and what she learned through being these different characters of these different girls. And it's really awesome to see that character development. It does approach some tough topics like physical and mental abuse. There is some violence in here. It got way deeper than I thought it was going to, but for a young adult novel, I feel like it approached all of those topics with a lot of grace, and I thought it was really beautiful the way that they chose to approach them, but it can be really heavy and pretty intense, so I would be warned on that. There's a quote in here that I really loved. "I have loved him in more ways than anyone else in my life. I loved him gleefully as a friend because it was all discovery, and I fell in love with him before I even knew how, and now we've survived together past that into Franken friends. Family." Beautiful. This is probably the best depiction of found family that I've ever found. I don't super enjoy the found family trope when it's not done well. I feel like Tess Sharp did an exceptional job with the found family trope here because it makes perfect sense as to why all these people have found each other. So it was a really beautiful depiction of finding people that really love you, and I loved that. It was very tactful, it was fast, it was adventurous, it was high stakes, and I really enjoyed it. So I rated this one a 3.75 stars. It wasn't like my super favorite, but it was really good. Last book that I read for the holidays / the last book that I read this year was Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. This was on my fall TBR. This is also a white room trope, so our main character wakes up having no clue what's going on and also surrounded by fire. But this character is in a workshop. He has no eyebrows, he has no memory, and he is trying to figure out what's going on. He has this impending sense of doom that the Dreadlord whomever is gonna come back and like maybe kill him, and he shortly realizes that he is the Dreadlord whomever. So he's trying to figure out why he is the Dreadlord, how he became the Dreadlord, and is trying to reconcile his current existence with his past existence when he doesn't remember why he was evil, doesn't agree with being evil, hates the decorations in his castle, doesn't know why he has goblins for minions instead of humans, doesn't remember why there's a princess locked in his basement, and he has no way of figuring it out. You stumble through this story with him as he's figuring out what's going on. You run into some other dark wizards, you learn of the princess and her secrets, and it's a beautiful story. It's a really good commentary on perception and performance and how to be perceived a certain way. You often have to look a certain way. I really enjoyed that aspect of this story. There were moments that I thought this was a cozy fantasy, and then there'd be like violence, like aggressive violence, like someone being immolated from the inside out. That was a little shocking. I had a hard time reconciling the two of those. I think it was maybe like a little more intense than I was interpreting it to be. I did enjoy the story, but because it was a little hard to reconcile, I don't think I would read it again unless I wanted this specific story again. I think I might enjoy it a second time around now that I understand what's going on, but having no concept of what's going on, I think kind of threw me for a loop in this one. It was really fun. I think I would rate this one at a 2.75. Those are all 9 books. I've had these sitting as a stack in order. It was about time that I reviewed some of these books, so I'm glad I finally got to it. If you end up reading any of these books, please share your opinion with me, especially Addie LaRue. I want to love it. I think I'm an Addie LaRue lover in theory. Please tell me your opinion of these books if you decide to read them, or if you have read them, let me know. Tell me what your thoughts on them were. If you agree about Miss Addie LaRue, if you've read The Christmas Tree Farm, do share your thoughts with me. I'm going to be talking about my reading goals for 2025, and I am so beyond excited for this year of reading. So catch me in the next one. Comment down below your best read of last year, and I'm gonna consider adding that to my list for 2025. I want some 5-star pack-a-punch books. So tell me your favorite book that you read last year, and we will see each other in the next one. I'll see you then.